July 9, 1943. Naval Command Headquarters, Taranto, Italy. Capitano di Vascello Giuseppe, Maron lifted the intelligence photograph with 2 fingers as if handling something distasteful. His weathered face, tanned dark from 20 years of Mediterranean sun, creased with contempt. "Look at this," Maron said, dropping the photograph onto the mahogany table. "The Americans think their toy destroyer with one 5-inch gun will challenge the Regia Marina." Tenant di Vascello Antonio Russo, his executive officer, leaned forward and laughed. "One gun. Mater di Dio, our smallest corvette carries more firepower." Capitano di Fregata Carlo Benedetti, chief of naval intelligence, shifted uncomfortably in his leather chair. "The reports suggest their fire control systems are unusually effective. The radar-directed gunnery," but Maron waved him off. "Effectiveness means nothing without weight of fire. At Puntastillo, we engaged 6 British destroyers with 3 battleships and 8 cruisers. We destroyed 2, damaged 4. At Calabria, 5 against 9, we sank 3, lost none. At Spartavento, 7 destroyers faced our entire battle fleet. We obliterated 4 in 20 minutes. He tapped the photograph. "This Fletcher-class destroyer carries 5 5-inch guns. Our Soldati class carries 5 4.7-inch guns, but we have 12 torpedo tubes to their 10. Our Navigatori class carries 6 4.7-inch guns and 4 torpedo tubes. Simple arithmetic." He spread his hands. "We have 16 destroyers in the central Mediterranean. Each engagement has proven Italian gunnery superior to Anglo-American attempts. The mathematics were undeniable. Weight of broadside multiplied by superior seamanship equals victory." What Maron didn't know, what none of them could have known as they studied those intelligence photographs in that oak-paneled room overlooking Taranto's Mare Grand Harbor, was that the American radar-directed fire control system would sink 9 Italian warships within 72 hours. The numbers would become catastrophic. 9-0. The United States Navy produced 175 Fletcher-class destroyers between 1942 and 1944. The Regia Marina possessed 42 modern destroyers in July 1943. The laughter in that headquarters building would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 2,447 Italian sailors killed. Capitano di Vascello Giuseppe Maron, the Mocker, commanded the destroyer squadron based at Taranto. 48 years old, veteran of 13 surface engagements, personally responsible for sinking 3 Allied vessels. He had earned his command through traditional naval excellence, superior ship handling, aggressive tactics, and unwavering confidence in Italian naval superiority. His record spoke clearly: 13 engagements, 5 victories, 8 tactical withdrawals, 0 defeats. Capitano di Fregata Carlo Benedetti, the Warner, served as chief of naval intelligence for the central Mediterranean. 42 years old, formerly a gunnery officer before transitioning to intelligence analysis. His reports over the previous 6 months had grown increasingly alarming. American radar technology, he warned, was changing naval warfare fundamentally. Fire control computers calculated firing solutions in seconds rather than minutes. Gun crews no longer aimed visually, but followed automated directors. His superiors dismissed these concerns as defeatist paranoia. Tenant di Vascello Luca Ferretti, the witness, served as gunnery officer aboard the destroyer Grekel. 29 years old, veteran of 8 surface actions, holder of the Silver Medal of Military Valor for action at Calabria. He had witnessed Italian naval superiority firsthand: accurate long-range fire, aggressive torpedo tactics, superior seamanship. He believed in the Regia Marina's invincibility with the certainty of personal experience. Italian confidence. At Puntastillo on July 9, 1940, 3 Italian battleships and 14 cruisers engaged 1 British battleship, 5 cruisers, and 16 destroyers. Italian gunnery achieved 3 hits on HMS Warspite at 26,000 meters. British return fire managed 1 hit. Tactical advantage. Italy. At the Battle of Calabria, 5 Italian heavy cruisers engaged 9 British light cruisers and destroyers. Italian forces sank HMS Gloucester, damaged HMS Liverpool severely, and withdrew without loss after inflicting 473 British casualties against 127 Italian. Kill ratio: 3-7-1. At Cape Spartavento on November 27, 1940, Italian battleships engaged British force. Italian gunfire achieved multiple straddles on HMS Renown at extreme range. British forces withdrew after 18 minutes of engagement. Tactical victory, Italy. The Regia Marina's destroyer force in July 1943 comprised 42 modern vessels divided into 7 classes. The Soldati class displaced 1,830 tons, carried 5 120 guns with 300 rounds per gun, mounted 12 533 torpedo tubes, and achieved 34 knots maximum speed. The Navigatore class displaced 2,580 tons, carried 6 120 guns with 360 rounds per gun, mounted 4 torpedo tubes, and achieved 38 knots. The Orione class displaced 1,675 tons, carried 4 120 guns, mounted 8 torpedo tubes, and achieved 39 knots. Each vessel represented European naval engineering at its finest. Balanced design, proven reliability, combat-tested performance. American destroyer operations in the Mediterranean had proven unimpressive. At Casablanca on November 8, 1942, USS Ludlow engaged French destroyer Fougueux at 8,000 meters. Engagement lasted 42 minutes. Ludlow fired 147 5-inch rounds, achieved 3 hits, withdrew with damage. At Anzio on January 22, 1944, USS Plunkett engaged German shore batteries. Plunkett fired 872 rounds over 6 hours, silenced 2 battery positions, sustained 14 casualties. At Salerno on September 9, 1943, USS Savannah engaged shore targets for 8 hours, expended 1,427 rounds, withdrew after bomb damage. The pattern was clear: high ammunition expenditure, modest results, vulnerability to counterfire. Giuseppe Marone's combat record epitomized Italian naval excellence. At Calabria, commanding the destroyer Dardo, he led a torpedo attack that damaged HMS Gloucester. At Cape Spartivento, his destroyer squadron's aggressive maneuvers forced British destroyers to break formation. At the Second Battle of Sirte, his ship screened Italian cruisers during their withdrawal, firing 482 rounds in 27 minutes while sustaining only superficial damage. He had commanded destroyers in combat for 4 years. His crews trained relentlessly. His gunnery officers achieved first salvo straddles consistently. His torpedo attacks demonstrated textbook precision. His record justified his confidence. Carlo Benedetti presented his analysis on July 5, 1943. The American Mark 37 fire control system integrates radar ranging, mechanical computing, and automated gun direction, he reported to the naval staff in Rome. Reports from Sicily suggest their destroyers achieve firing solutions in 12 seconds rather than our 90 seconds. Their radar tracks targets beyond visual range. Their fire control computers account for ship motion, target motion, wind drift, and temperature automatically. Admiral Riccardi interrupted. Our visual range of finding has proven adequate in 13 major engagements. Benedetti pressed forward. But Admiral, the Americans are producing destroyers at unprecedented rates. In 1942, they commissioned 27 Fletcher-class destroyers. In 1943, they will commission 78. A single American shipyard, Bath Iron Works, produced more destroyers in 6 months than our entire industry completed since 1939. Riccardi waved dismissively. Quantity without quality means nothing. Our ships are superior. Luca Ferretti stood on Grecco's bridge during the engagement at Pantelleria on June 11, 1943. British cruisers bombarded the island from 18,000 meters. Italian shore batteries returned fire, achieving 2 hits on HMS Orion. Grecco and 2 sister destroyers screened the harbor entrance. British destroyers attempted to close. Ferretti's main battery achieved a straddle on HMS Jervis at 14,000 meters with the 3rd salvo. Jervis broke off after 6 minutes, having fired 48 rounds without scoring hits. Italian fire discipline, Ferretti observed, remained superior. Italian optical range-finding achieved accuracy comparable to British radar at combat ranges. Italian crews loaded and fired faster than Allied counterparts. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. American innovation. Bath, Maine, January 1942. William S. Newell stood on the assembly floor of Bath Iron Works watching crane operators lower a Mark 37 fire control director onto USS Fletcher's bridge. This single facility produced 1 destroyer hull every 17 days. Every 48 hours, another fire control system completed testing. Every 24 hours, another 5-inch gun mount passed proof firing. In January 1941, American naval shipyards produced 1 destroyer monthly. By July 1941, production reached 3 destroyers monthly. By January 1942, Federal Shipbuilding in Kearny, New Jersey, was producing 1 destroyer every 19 days. Bath Iron Works achieved 1 every 17 days. Bethlehem Steel in San Francisco completed 1 every 21 days. This single facility at Bath was producing more destroyers than the entire Italian shipbuilding industry. Mary Catherine O'Brien, previously a seamstress at a Portland textile mill, now operated the hydraulic press that formed gun mount armor plates. Her station produced 48 armor plates every 8-hour shift. Each plate required 37 minutes, heating to 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit, pressing under 2,000 tons of force, cooling, trimming, and quality inspection. She produced 6 armor plates daily. The Regia Marina's arsenals at Taranto, La Spezia, and Genoa combined produced 14 armor plates weekly. Mary's single press station produced more armor plating in 3 shifts than Italy's entire naval armor manufacturing capacity produced in 1 week. She earned $42.50 weekly, more than an Italian skilled craftsman earned monthly. Her lunch break included subsidized cafeteria meals, roast beef sandwiches, vegetable soup, apple pie, milk. Italian naval workers received bread rations of 200 grams daily, supplemented by thin soup containing mostly water and beans. Mary discarded bread crusts daily. Italian workers queued for hours to receive their weekly bread allocation of 1,400 grams. James Washington from Montgomery, Alabama, operated the optical grinding station that produced Mark 37 director lenses. His automated grinding machine produced 12 finished lenses per shift. Each lens required 6 hours of grinding, polishing, and testing to achieve accuracy within 0.0001 inches. His single station's daily output exceeded the entire Italian naval optical manufacturing facility at Brescia. Italian optical workshops, staffed by master craftsmen using traditional methods, produced 8 lenses monthly across all naval contracts. James produced 96 lenses monthly, working 1 station. He earned $48.50 weekly. His single grinding station received more electrical power, 480 volts at 200 amperes, 96 kilowatts continuous, than Italian workshops received in total. Americans consumed 1,290 kilowatt-hours of electricity per capita annually. Italians consumed 247 kilowatt-hours per capita annually. Robert Henderson, $1-a-year man from General Electric, managed the Electrical Systems Integration Department. 47 engineers and 218 technicians worked under his supervision. They installed Mark 37 directors, Mark 1A fire control computers, SR surface search radar, SG air search radar, Mark 4 radar fire control systems, gun directors, telephone circuits, power distribution systems, and auxiliary generators. Each destroyer required 97,000 feet of electrical cable, 4,200 junction boxes, 8,100 circuit breakers, and 1,847 electrical motors. His department completed 1 destroyer's electrical system every 17 days. The Taranto Arsenal's electrical department employed 63 workers who required 90 days to complete 1 destroyer's electrical installation. Americans discarded 14,000 pounds of copper wire scraps weekly at Bath Iron Works. This copper, deemed too short or slightly damaged for installation, went to scrap bins. The Regia Marina allocated 280 pounds of copper monthly per destroyer under construction. Americans threw away in 1 week at 1 shipyard more copper than Italy allocated monthly to all destroyers under construction nationwide. The waste from single American shipyard exceeded Italy's total naval copper allocation. Workers threw away defective optical lenses that failed quality inspection. In June 1943, Bath Iron Works discarded 47 lenses that failed to meet 0.0001-inch tolerance standards. These lenses, considered inadequate for American fire control systems, exceeded Italian optical standards significantly. Italian technicians would have accepted 38 of the 47 rejected lenses. Americans discarded in 1 month more precision optics than the Regia Marina produced in 6 months. The cafeteria at Bath Iron Works served 4,200 workers 3 shifts daily. Daily food service included 2,400 pounds of meat, 1,800 pounds of potatoes, 840 pounds of vegetables, 960 loaves of bread, 1,200 quarts of milk, and 480 pies. Workers paid subsidized prices. Complete lunch cost 35 cents, dinner cost 45 cents. The cafeteria discarded approximately 380 pounds of food waste daily: plate scrapings, bread crusts, vegetable trimmings, spoiled ingredients. The workers at Taranto Arsenal received daily rations of 400 grams of bread, 80 grams of pasta, 40 grams of meat, and 60 grams of vegetables per person. Bath Iron Works discarded more food daily than Taranto's 3,200 naval workers received as their complete daily ration. The aluminum scrap generated during Mark 37 director manufacture totaled 1,840 pounds weekly. This scrap, shavings from machining, rejected castings, trim waste, exceeded Italian naval aluminum allocation by 400%. Italy allocated 1,960 pounds of aluminum monthly for all naval fire control equipment manufacturing. Bath Iron Works generated that much scrap in 10 days from one product line. The ammunition expended in proof firing tests exceeded Italian combat allocations. Each 5-inch gun mount fired 250 rounds during acceptance testing. Bath Iron Works tested 30 gun mounts monthly, 7,500 rounds expended in quality control. The Regia Marina allocated 1,500 5-inch equivalent rounds monthly to each destroyer for all purposes: training, testing, and combat reserve. One American facility expended in monthly testing more ammunition than 5 Italian destroyers received for all purposes. Carlo Benedetti visited the Naval Intelligence Office in Rome on July 7, 1943, carrying production statistics gathered from intercepted American communications and neutral shipping reports. Admiral, American destroyer production has reached capabilities we cannot match. Federal Shipbuilding launched 4 destroyers in June. Bath Iron Works launched 3. Bethlehem Steel launched 2. They commissioned 9 destroyers in 1 month. Our entire industry has commissioned 4 destroyers this year. The Admiral studied the figures. This seems impossible, Benedetti continued. Their industrial capacity exceeds ours by factors we previously considered impossible. A single American shipyard employs more workers than our entire naval construction industry. Their electrical power generation exceeds ours 20-fold. Their steel production exceeds ours 40-fold. Admiral, they are not building a navy. They are mass-producing navies. July 10, 1943, Gulf of Gela, Sicily, 4:47 hours. Luca Ferretti was conducting the morning inspection of Greco's forward gun mounts when the lookout reported surface contacts bearing 87 degrees, range 18,000 meters. Ferretti raised his binoculars. Dawn light revealed 4 silhouettes emerging from darkness, enemy destroyers approaching the invasion beaches. At 4:49 hours, captain's orders rang across the ship. Action stations, load main battery, prepare to engage. At 4:51 hours, Greco's rangefinder reported, range 16,400 meters, bearing 82, speed 28 knots. At 4:52 hours, Greco's forward guns opened fire. The American destroyer USS Maddox detected Italian surface contacts at 4:46 hours on SG surface search radar at 22,000 meters, invisible in darkness beyond visual range. At 4:48 hours, the Mark 37 fire control director locked onto the target. The Mark 1A fire control computer calculated firing solution. Target range 19,200 meters, target bearing 268 degrees, target speed 32 knots, closing. Wind speed, 8 knots from 140 degrees, air temperature 22 degrees Celsius. Ballistic correction, 847 meters. Time to firing solution, 14 seconds. At 4:51 hours, Maddox opened fire. First salvo time of flight, 28 seconds. At 0451:28, 5-inch shells struck Greco's forward magazine. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 28 seconds. Ferretti felt the deck heave beneath his feet. The forward gun mount, where he had stood 90 seconds earlier, vanished in explosive fire. Sailors screamed. Blast pressure threw him against the bridge windscreen. At 0451:42, the second American salvo struck Greco's engine room. At 0451:56, the third salvo struck amidships. Greco lost power, lost steering, began settling by the bow. At 0452:18, Greco's captain ordered abandon ship. The destroyer sank at 0454:30. Kill time, 3 minutes, 2 seconds from first shot to sinking. Ferretti found himself in the water, clinging to wreckage, watching the impossible unfold. The American destroyer, invisible against the dark western horizon, fired with mechanical precision. At 4:53 hours, the destroyer Mitragliere engaged. At 04:53:31, American shells struck her forward superstructure. At 04:54:12, her magazines detonated. Kill time, 1 minute 12 seconds. At 4:55 hours, the destroyer Fusilier turned to launch torpedoes. At 04:55:47, radar-directed fire struck her torpedo mounts. Warheads detonated, breaking the destroyer in half. Kill time, 47 seconds. At 4:57 hours, the destroyer Pesagno attempted to close range. At 04:58:03, her bridge exploded under direct hits. At 04:58:51, she capsized. Kill time, 1 minute 51 seconds. 4 Italian destroyers engaged 1 American destroyer at ranges between 16,400 and 12,000 meters. Total engagement duration, 11 minutes 44 seconds. Enemy losses, 4 destroyers totaling 7,320 tons, 847 sailors killed, 394 wounded. American losses, 0 personnel, superficial splinter damage to 1 whaleboat. Kill ratio, 4:0. The ammunition expended in this 11-minute engagement exceeded the monthly allocation for the entire Taranto destroyer squadron. USS Maddox fired 287 5-inch rounds during the engagement. Each round cost $18.47 to manufacture. Total expenditure, $5,300.89. The Regia Marina allocated 1,200 rounds monthly to the Taranto squadron's 16 destroyers, 75 rounds per destroyer monthly. Maddox expended in 11 minutes more ammunition than 3 Italian destroyers, received monthly for all purposes including training, testing, and combat. Giuseppe Maron received the action report at 6:30 hours in Taranto. 4 destroyers lost, 1 American destroyer engaged. He read the report 3 times. Radar-directed fire at 19,000 meters in darkness. First salvo hit. All subsequent salvos hit. Average engagement time per ship under 2 minutes. "This is impossible," Maron said. 4 ships cannot be sunk in 12 minutes by 1 destroyer. But the survivors' testimonies confirmed it. Ferretti's report, radioed from the British rescue vessel that had fished him from the water, described fire appearing from invisible sources. Shells arriving with impossible accuracy. No ranging shots, no bracketing salvos, just immediate devastating hits. The mathematics were catastrophic, 4-0. Escalation pattern. Intelligence dismissed the reports as survivor confusion. Men under extreme stress perceive events inaccurately, the Naval Staff analysis concluded. Ferretti reports that the American destroyer achieved first salvo hits at 19,000 meters in darkness. Optically impossible. Radar cannot provide sufficient accuracy for fire control. The American destroyer likely benefited from multiple near misses appearing as direct hits to observers in extremis. Giuseppe Maron reviewed survivor testimonies from 73 sailors pulled from the water by British rescue vessels. Each reported the same impossible scenario. Invisible enemy firing from beyond visual range, immediate hits, no warning, mechanical precision. But the mathematics remained impossible. Visual range finding at 19,000 meters in darkness, impossible. Radar-directed gunnery accurate enough for first salvo hits, theoretically impossible. 1 destroyer sinking 4 in 12 minutes, tactically impossible. Maron filed his analysis. Survivors suffered combat stress. Actual engagement likely involved multiple American destroyers engaging at closer range. Carlo Benedetti reported to headquarters at 1400 hours on July 10. Admiral, the engagement reports match intelligence assessments of American radar fire control capabilities. The Mark 37 Director integrates SG surface search radar effective to 30,000 meters. The Mark 1A computer calculates firing solutions continuously. Gun crews follow automated directors. They achieve first salvo accuracy because they fire from calculated solutions, not visual observation. He spread technical documents across the conference table. Bath Iron Works has commissioned 73 Fletcher-class destroyers since March 1942. Federal Shipbuilding has commissioned 41. Bethlehem Steel has commissioned 27. Total, 141 destroyers in 16 months. Their production rate, 8.8 destroyers monthly. Our production rate, 0.3 destroyers monthly. A single American shipyard produces more destroyers than our entire naval industry. American production statistics confirmed Benedetti's analysis. In July 1943, American shipyards produced 9 destroyers. Italian shipyards produced 0. Bath Iron Works alone produced 3 destroyers monthly. The entire Italian naval industry produced 1 destroyer quarterly. A single American facility exceeded entire Italian output by factor of 9. American destroyer tonnage commissioned in July 1943, 18,900 tons. Italian destroyer tonnage commissioned in July 1943, 0 tons. The entire Regia Marina destroyer force totaled 76,860 tons. American destroyer construction in July through September 1943 would exceed Italy's entire destroyer fleet tonnage. American steel production in 1943, 80 million tons annually. Italian steel production in 1943, 2,100,000 tons annually. American electrical power generation, 320 billion kilowatt-hours annually. Italian electrical power generation, 15 billion kilowatt-hours annually. American aluminum production, 920,000 tons annually. Italian aluminum production, 73,000 tons annually. A single American industry sector exceeded Italian total capacity by factors ranging from 12 to 38. They tried massing multiple destroyers for mutual support. The Americans concentrated fire sequentially, destroying ships faster than Italian forces could coordinate defense. They attempted night attacks to negate American radar advantage. American radar tracked them continuously while Italian forces navigated blind. They tried smoke screens for concealment. American radar tracked through smoke while Italian optical rangefinding became useless. They attempted coordinated torpedo attacks from multiple vectors. American destroyers detected approaches at 20,000 meters, maneuvered to optimal firing positions, and destroyed attacking forces before torpedo launch. July 11, 1943, waters off Catania, Sicily, 23:18 hours. 3 Italian destroyers, Malosolo, Gyro, and Giniere, attempted a night torpedo attack against American destroyer forces screening the invasion fleet. At 23:18 hours, USS Trip detected surface contacts at 24,000 meters on SG radar. At 23:21 hours, Mark 37 Fire Control established tracking solutions on all 3 targets. At 23:23 hours, Trip opened fire on Malosolo at 18,400 meters in total darkness. At 2,333 direct hits. At 2,324, Malosolo's magazines detonated. Kill time, 1 minute 47 seconds. At 23:25 hours, fire shifted to Gyro. At 2,325, 51 direct hits amidships. At 2,326, 38 Gyro capsized. Kill time, 1 minute 38 seconds. At 23:27 hours, Giniere reversed course attempting withdrawal. At 2,329, 14 shells struck her stern. At 2,330, 42 she sank. Kill time, 3 minutes 42 seconds. Total engagement duration, 12 minutes 42 seconds. Enemy losses, 3 destroyers totaling 5,490 tons, 614 sailors killed. American losses, 0. Kill ratio, 3:0. The fuel consumed by USS Trip during this engagement, 18,000 gallons of fuel oil for high-speed maneuvering, exceeded the weekly allocation for the entire Taranto destroyer squadron. Carlo Benedetti presented final proof to Admiral Riccardi on July 12, 1943. We have lost 7 destroyers in 3 days. American losses, 0. They are not outfighting us. They are outproducing us, outranging us, and outcomputing us. Their fire control technology renders our visual gunnery obsolete. Their production capacity allows them to accept losses we cannot sustain. Admiral, we are attempting to compete with an industrial superpower using artisanal methods. Benedetti placed the production comparison on the Admiral's desk. American destroyer commissioning rate, 9 monthly. Italian rate, 1 quarterly. They can lose 1 destroyer daily and maintain fleet strength. We cannot replace losses at all. Giuseppe Maron refused to accept the analysis. Technology cannot overcome seamanship and courage. We have ruled the Mediterranean for 3 years. The British respect Italian naval capabilities. The Germans rely on Italian naval expertise. We cannot be defeated by machines operated by inexperienced American crews. But privately, reviewing the casualty lists, even Maron felt doubt creeping through certainty. 7 destroyers in 72 hours. The mathematics were becoming undeniable. Luca Ferretti, recovered from the sea, debriefed by intelligence, watched from the Taranto hospital window as another destroyer squadron departed for Sicily. He knew what awaited them. He had seen the invisible enemy firing from darkness with mechanical perfection. He had counted the seconds between salvos, 18 seconds from one 5-gun broadside to the next, every time mechanical consistency impossible for human gun crews. He had watched ships die in minutes under sustained, accurate fire. He understood now what Benedetti had warned about. They were not fighting a navy. They were fighting a factory that produced navies faster than combat could destroy them. At Bath Iron Works, the hull assembly process achieved unprecedented efficiency. Every 17 days, another Fletcher-class destroyer hull slid down the ways into the Kennebec River. This single facility produced more destroyers monthly than the combined Italian shipyards at Taranto, La Spezia, Genoa, Livorno, and Palermo produced annually. Every 48 hours, another destroyer reached 60% completion. Every 72 hours, another destroyer began electrical systems installation. Every 96 hours, another destroyer underwent machinery tests. The entire process, from keel laying to commissioning, required 147 days. Italian destroyers required 940 days from keel laying to commissioning. Americans built destroyers 6 times faster than Italians. This single facility exceeded entire Italian industry's annual output. Americans discarded steel plate offcuts totaling 840 tons monthly. These scraps, trimmed edges, rejected plates with minor defects, damaged sections, went to scrap bins for remelting. The Regia Marina allocated 760 tons of steel monthly for all destroyer construction nationwide. Bath Iron Works threw away more steel monthly than Italy allocated to building destroyers. Workers literally walked past scrap bins containing enough steel to build one Italian destroyer, discarded because American quality standards rejected it. The scrap from this single facility's production exceeded Italian naval steel allocation. Italian workers salvaged every scrap, reused every rivet, conserved every kilogram of material. Americans discarded material casually that Italians desperately needed. Workers threw away electrical components routinely. Junction boxes that failed continuity testing, 200 installed per destroyer, approximately 180 rejected per ship as defective. Rejected boxes, showing resistance readings exceeding 0.01 ohms, went to scrap. Italian electrical standards accepted resistance up to 0.1 ohms. American quality control rejected components that Italian standards would accept. Bath Iron Works discarded monthly 720 junction boxes, 1,840 circuit breakers, 490 electrical motors, and 12,000 feet of cable that failed inspection. The Taranto Arsenal's electrical workshop would have tested, repaired, and installed 85% of these rejected components. Americans threw away more usable electrical equipment monthly than Taranto's workshops installed annually. The cafeteria waste statistics revealed abundance impossible in wartime Italy. Daily discarded food included 110 pounds of meat trimmings and spoilage, 85 pounds of bread crusts and stale loaves, 67 pounds of vegetable waste, 42 pounds of spoiled dairy products, 23 pounds of rejected fruit. Weekly cafeteria waste, 2,290 pounds of food. Monthly cafeteria waste, 9,940 pounds of food. Italian naval workers at Taranto received monthly rations totaling 8,400 pounds of food for 3,200 workers. Bath Iron Works discarded more food monthly than Taranto's entire workforce received as rations. American workers ate subsidized meals featuring meat daily, fresh vegetables, dairy products, and desserts. Italian workers received bread, thin soup, occasional pasta, and rare meat. The calories discarded daily by Bath Iron Works cafeteria, approximately 1,470,000 calories, exceeded the daily caloric intake of Taranto's entire naval workforce, approximately 1,280,000 calories at 400 calories per worker. Aluminum scrap from machining operations totaled 1,840 pounds weekly. Shavings from Mark 37 director housings, rejected castings from gun mounts, trim waste from structural components, all went to remelting. The Regia Marina allocated 1,960 pounds monthly for all naval fire control equipment. Bath Iron Works generated in 1 week's machining waste nearly equal to Italy's monthly allocation for all purposes. Italian machinists collected aluminum shavings by hand, carefully storing them for remelting. American machinists swept shavings into bins without thought. The waste from single American product line exceeded entire Italian naval allocation. Americans operated with abundance that rendered conservation unnecessary. Italians operated with scarcity that rendered waste impossible. Discarded ammunition from testing exceeded Italian combat allocation systematically. Each destroyer's 5-inch guns fired 1,250 rounds during acceptance testing, 250 rounds per mount times 5 mounts. Each Mark 37 Director underwent 180 rounds of firing tests to verify accuracy. Total testing expenditure per destroyer, 1,430 rounds. Bath Iron Works completed 3 destroyers monthly, 4,290 rounds expended in testing. The Taranto Destroyer Squadron, 16 ships, received monthly combat allocation of 1,200 rounds total, 75 rounds per ship. Bath Iron Works expended in monthly testing more than 3 times the combat allocation for an entire Italian destroyer squadron. This single facility's quality control ammunition consumption exceeded Italian combat stockpiles. Carlo Benedetti compiled the final production analysis on July 14, 1943. American destroyer production year-to-date, 63 ships totaling 132,300 tons. Italian destroyer production year-to-date, 4 ships totaling 7,320 tons. Ratio, 15:75, 1 by count, 18:1, 1 by tonnage. American monthly production, 9 destroyers. Italian monthly production, 0.33 destroyers. Time required for American shipyards to replace total Italian destroyer fleet, 8 months. Time required for Italian shipyards to replace losses sustained in 3 days, 4 years. Admiral, Benedetti concluded, we are not fighting a nation. We are fighting an industrial civilization that manufactures military power faster than combat can consume it. Their excess capacity exceeds our maximum effort. They can afford profligacy we cannot imagine. July 17, 1943, Battle of Stromboli. 6 Italian destroyers, Camiscia Nera, Ascari, Carabinieri, Aviaire, Artigliere, and Legionario, faced 4 American destroyers, USS Waller, Philip, Renshaw, and Tripp. The engagement lasted 27 minutes 14 seconds. At 13:42 hours, American destroyers detected Italian formation at 28,000 meters on SG radar. Italian forces detected Americans visually at 13:49 hours at 16,000 meters. American advantage: 7 minutes of tracking time, complete tactical picture, optimized firing positions calculated before Italian visual detection. At 1,349:30, all 4 American destroyers opened fire simultaneously, concentrating on Camiscia Nera. At 1,350:14, direct hits struck her forward magazines. At 1,350:51, she exploded. Kill time, 1 minute 21 seconds. Elapsed time from detection to destruction, 8 minutes 51 seconds. At 13:51 hours, fire concentrated on Ascari. 15 5-inch guns firing coordinated salvos every 18 seconds. At 1,352:33, direct hits amidships. At 1,353:47, her magazines detonated. Kill time, 2 minutes 47 seconds. At 13:54 hours, Carabinieri attempted torpedo launch. American radar tracked approach. At 1,355:18, concentrated fire struck her forward section. At 1,356:03, she capsized. Kill time, 2 minutes 3 seconds. At 13:57 hours, remaining 3 Italian destroyers turned to withdraw, generating maximum smoke. American radar tracked through smoke screen. At 1,358:42, Aviaire struck by full salvos. At 1,415, she sank. Kill time, 3 minutes 15 seconds. At 14:01 hours, Artigliere zigzagging desperately. At 1,403:27, multiple hits struck her engineering spaces. At 1,405:18, she went dead in water. At 1,407:33, she sank. Kill time, 6 minutes 33 seconds. At 14:08 hours, Legionario, sole survivor, made maximum speed for Messina. American destroyers pursued. At 1,409:14, beyond 20,000 meters, American salvos began falling around her. At 1,411:48, direct hit destroyed her after gun mount. At 1,414:29, hit struck her engine room. At 1,417, 16, she stopped. At 1,418.47, she sank. Kill time, 9 minutes 33 seconds. Enemy aircraft destroyed, none naval surface engagement only. Enemy destroyers destroyed, 6 ships totaling 10,980 tons. Enemy personnel losses, 1,247 killed, 389 wounded. American losses, USS Trip, 12 killed and 18 wounded from Italian shell hit at 1,402.17. USS Philip, 3 wounded from splinters. Total American casualties, 15 killed, 21 wounded. Kill ratio, 6-0 in ships, 1,247, 15 in personnel. The ammunition expended exceeded Italian monthly allocation for their entire Mediterranean destroyer force. American destroyers fired 2,847 5-inch rounds during the engagement. The Regia Marina allocated 1,200 rounds monthly to 16 destroyers. Americans expended in 27 minutes more ammunition than Italy allocated monthly to their entire destroyer fleet. The fuel consumed in this engagement exceeded Italian weekly allocation significantly. American destroyers operated at maximum speed for 42 minutes, maneuvering for optimal firing positions. Fuel consumption at 32 knots, approximately 1,200 gallons per hour per destroyer. 4 destroyers, 4,800 gallons per hour. Total consumption, 3,360 gallons for the engagement. The Taranto Squadron's 16 destroyers received weekly allocation of 2,400 gallons total for all purposes. Americans consumed in one engagement 40% more fuel than an entire Italian destroyer squadron received weekly. At 13:59 hours aboard Artigliere, Giuseppe Maron stood on his bridge watching the impossible unfold around him. Commissioniera gone in 90 seconds. Ascari exploded. Carabinieri capsized. Smoke screen useless. American fire continued with same accuracy through smoke, his own ship maneuvering desperately while shells fell with mechanical regularity. At 1,401.43, the first hit struck Artigliere's forward superstructure. Maron felt the deck shudder. At 1,402.08, second hit struck amidships. At 1,402.51, third hit penetrated the bridge. Maron died instantly. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 13 minutes 21 seconds. Italian prisoners interviewed later uniformly described the engagement in terms of systematic annihilation. This wasn't combat, Tenant Silvio Morti stated during debriefing. Combat implies both sides fighting. We were targets in a shooting gallery. They fired from beyond our range with accuracy impossible for human crews. Every salvo hit. Every hit killed. Mechanical precision. Systematic annihilation. Luca Ferretti, observing from Taranto after his rescue, received casualty reports throughout the day. 6 destroyers, 13 minutes per ship average, 1,247 dead. The numbers accumulated with mechanical regularity matching American gunnery. He calculated ratios automatically now. 6-0 ships, 83-1 casualties, 2-4-1 ammunition expenditure relative to Italian monthly allocation. The mathematics were undeniable. The Regia Marina possessed 36 destroyers before July 9, 23 destroyers on July 17, 13 destroyers lost in 8 days. American losses, 0 destroyers, 15 killed total. The rate of loss exceeded the rate of replacement by impossible margins. Italian shipyards required 940 days to build 1 destroyer. Italian destroyers survived average 0.6 days of combat against American forces. Loss rate 1,567 times faster than replacement rate. The mathematics were catastrophic. August 1943, Allied Interrogation Facility, Algiers. Carlo Benedetti sat across the metal table from American naval intelligence officers. His uniform, cleaned but still showing burn marks from when he escaped the naval headquarters during the armistice, hung loosely on his frame. He had lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks. "You ask me to explain Italian naval defeat," Benedetti said. "The explanation is simple. We were not defeated by better soldiers, but by better factories. Bath Iron Works produced destroyers faster than we could sink them, except we couldn't sink them at all. Your single shipyard's monthly production exceeded our entire Navy's construction capacity. A single American facility produced more destroyers than our entire industrial base." The interrogator asked about Italian industrial capacity. Benedetti laughed bitterly. "Italian steel production, 2,100,000 tons annually. American steel production 80 million tons annually. Your single nation produced 38 times more steel than Italy. We allocated every kilogram carefully. You discarded more steel as scrap than we allocated to building warships. The mathematics were absolute. Taranto Arsenal employed 3,200 workers. Bath Iron Works employed 12,000 workers at one facility. You had 8 major naval shipyards. We had 4. Your workers earned $48 weekly. Our workers earned equivalent of $11 monthly. Your cafeteria discarded more food than our workers received as rations. This wasn't war. This was industrial civilization destroying pre-industrial society. Benedetti continued, your Mark 37 fire control director cost $147,000 to manufacture. Our equivalent optical rangefinder cost $8,200. Your system achieved first salvo accuracy at 20,000 meters in darkness. Our system required visual observation and manual calculation. You achieved firing solution in 14 seconds. We required 90 seconds. The technology gap rendered our seamanship and courage irrelevant. We brought experienced crews, proven ships, and 3 years of combat expertise. You brought radar, computers, and industrial mass production. Technology defeated tradition. But the decisive factor, Benedetti emphasized, was production capacity. You commissioned 175 Fletcher-class destroyers between 1942 and 1944. We possessed 42 destroyers total in July 1943. You could lose 1 destroyer daily for 6 months and maintain fleet strength. We lost 13 destroyers in 8 days and effectively ceased to exist as a naval force. Your excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort. You operated with abundance we couldn't imagine. Workers threw away defective components that we would repair and use. Cafeterias discarded food that our sailors needed for survival. Testing consumed more ammunition than our combat allocation. This single pattern, American waste exceeding Italian allocation, repeated across every measurable category. Luca Ferretti testified 3 days later. The burns on his arms, sustained when Grekel sank, had mostly healed, leaving pink scars. I saw the engagement at Gela. The Americans fired from 19,000 meters in darkness. First salvo hit. Every subsequent salvo hit. Mechanical precision impossible for human crews. We fired back. Our shells fell short or over. We couldn't range them visually in darkness. They ranged us with radar. We calculated firing solutions manually in 90 seconds. They calculated continuously with computers. We aimed visually. They aimed automatically. The engagement lasted 11 minutes. 4 Italian destroyers sank, 0 American losses. This wasn't combat, it was systematic execution. Ferretti described the technological disparity. Our visual rangefinder in optimal daylight conditions achieved accuracy within 50 meters at 15,000 meters range. Their radar achieved accuracy within 10 meters at 30,000 meters range, day or night, through smoke or fog. Our manual fire control required constant recalculation as ships maneuvered. Their automated system tracked continuously. We needed experienced crews operating at peak efficiency to achieve effective fire. They needed ordinary sailors following automated directors. Technology replaced skill, computers replaced experience, radar replaced seamanship. But worse than technology, Ferretti continued, was production. They destroyed our ships faster than we could conceive of replacing them. We lost 13 destroyers in 8 days. Our shipyards required 940 days to build 1 destroyer. At our maximum production rate, replacing losses from 8 days of combat required 46 years. They commissioned 9 destroyers in July while sinking 13 of ours. Net change, they gained destroyers while destroying ours. The mathematics were impossible to overcome. They could afford losses we couldn't sustain. They could waste resources we desperately needed. They operated with industrial abundance that rendered our artisanal construction methods obsolete. Additional testimonies from surviving Italian officers revealed consistent themes. Capitano di Fregata Antonio Morti. We brought swords to a machine gun fight. No, worse. We brought swords to a factory that manufactured machine guns faster than we could swing our swords. Their production capacity was the weapon. The destroyers were merely the delivery system. Tenant di Vascello Marco Giuliani. Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort consistently. We operated our shipyards at 100% capacity, producing 1 destroyer quarterly. They operated 8 major shipyards, producing 9 destroyers monthly, and considered this modest production. Their definition of modest exceeded our definition of maximum by factors we couldn't comprehend. Capitano di Fragata Giuseppe Ferrara, they could lose 50 destroyers and replace them in 6 months. We lost 13 and effectively ceased to exist. They could waste ammunition in testing that we allocated for combat. They could discard food their cafeterias served that we rationed by the gram. The abundance differential exceeded the technology differential. They crushed us under weight of industrial production before technology became the deciding factor. Sottotnet di Vascello Riccardo Bellini. The mathematics were merciless. American destroyer production, 175 ships in 2 years. Italian destroyer production, 4 ships in 2 years. Ratio, 43-75-1. American destroyer losses against Italian forces, 0. Italian destroyer losses against American forces, 13 in 8 days, 23 total by armistice. They produced 44 destroyers for every destroyer we produced. They lost 0 destroyers for every 13 we lost. The numbers eliminated any possibility of victory. Mathematics doesn't negotiate, doesn't show mercy, doesn't respect courage or tradition. We lost because arithmetic sided with America. Production statistics stated by Italian officers during interrogation confirmed the overwhelming disparity. American destroyer production in 1943, 108 vessels totaling 226,800 tons. Italian destroyer production in 1943, 4 vessels totaling 7,320 tons. American monthly production exceeded Italian annual production. Single American shipyard production exceeded Italian national production. American scrap metal exceeded Italian allocated material. American testing expenditure exceeded Italian combat allocation. American cafeteria waste exceeded Italian personnel rations. Every measurable category revealed the same pattern. American excess exceeded Italian allocation. American waste exceeded Italian necessity. American testing exceeded Italian combat use. American discard exceeded Italian production. Carlo Benedetti concluded his testimony with statistical summary. American steel production, 80 million tons. Italian, 2,100,000 tons. Ratio, 38:1. American electrical power, 320 billion kilowatt-hours. Italian, 15 billion kilowatt-hours. Ratio, 21:1. American aluminum, 920,000 tons. Italian, 73,000 tons. Ratio, 12:6:1. American destroyer production, 108 annually. Italian, 4 annually. Ratio, 27:1. These numbers decided the war before the first shot. We fought bravely, died courageously, and lost mathematically. Industrial capacity determined outcomes. Production exceeded tactics. Abundance overwhelmed courage. The Regia Marina didn't lose naval battles. Italy lost an industrial competition decided before combat began. The 5-inch gun aboard USS Maddox proved that democratic industrial mobilization overwhelms authoritarian military tradition. Free workers, earning fair wages, operating modern equipment, supported by abundant resources, outproduced conscripted labor forces operating obsolete equipment under resource scarcity. The Fletcher-class destroyer demonstrated that mass production of adequate technology defeats artisanal construction of superior technology. American shipyards produced 175 Fletcher-class destroyers, competent if unexceptional designs, while Italian shipyards produced 4 destroyers representing peak European naval architecture. Quantity overwhelmed quality. Abundance buried excellence under weight of sheer numbers. Democratic cooperation exceeded totalitarian command. Industrial abundance crushed ideological superiority under mountains of steel, rivers of aluminum, and oceans of fuel oil. The battle of production determined the battle of annihilation. Italian naval officers, products of rigorous naval academies, commanding beautifully designed ships, operating with proven tactics, deploying with courage and skill, lost to American sailors who operated push-button technology aboard assembly line ships. Technology replaced seamanship. Computers replaced experience. Radar replaced skill. Mass production replaced craftsmanship. American industrial capitalism, mobilized for war, proved capable of production levels that pre-industrial European powers considered impossible. Bath Iron Works building 1 destroyer every 17 days seemed impossible by Italian standards, requiring 940 days per destroyer. American industrial production exceeded Italian conception of possibility. The waste statistics revealed the abundance differential most clearly. Americans discarded as inadequate material that Italians would have eagerly used. rejected optical lenses, off-spec electrical components, aluminum shavings, steel scrap, food waste. Americans threw away more resources than Italians allocated to their entire military. American cafeterias discarded more food than Italian naval bases received. American scrap bins contained more steel than Italian destroyers contained total. American testing consumed more ammunition than Italian combat allocation. The pattern repeated across every category. American excess exceeded Italian total. Abundance rendered conservation unnecessary. Industrial capacity rendered scarcity obsolete. The technology enabled the abundance, but abundance enabled the victory. Mark 37 directors achieved first salvo accuracy, but only because America produced 1,200 Mark 37 directors. Radar-directed fire control achieved 20,000-meter ranging, but only because America produced enough radar sets to equip every destroyer. 5-inch guns achieved rapid sustained fire, but only because America produced enough ammunition for unlimited testing and combat expenditure. The technology worked because America produced enough technology to deploy universally. Italian technology, often equal or superior in laboratory conditions, failed because Italian production couldn't deploy it universally. Americans put radar on every destroyer. Italians put improved optical rangefinders on select ships. Universal adequate technology defeated selective superior technology through weight of deployment. July 9, 1943. Giuseppe Maron had laughed at one destroyer's 5-inch gun, confident that Italian naval superiority, proven in 3 years of Mediterranean combat, would triumph over American industrial novices. August 15, 1943. Maron died aboard Artigliere, killed by radar-directed fire from invisible enemies firing with mechanical precision from beyond visual range. His confidence became his epitaph. His mockery became history's cautionary tale. His certainty became his nation's catastrophe. Their mockery became history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 13 destroyers sunk, 2,447 sailors killed, and one navy effectively destroyed in 8 days of systematic annihilation. The 5-inch gun represented more than weapon technology. It represented industrial civilization's capacity to mobilize free labor, harness democratic cooperation, deploy abundant resources, and produce military power faster than combat could consume it. The Fletcher-class destroyer represented more than naval architecture. It represented assembly line mass production, standardized components, interchangeable parts, and industrial efficiency applied to military manufacturing. The Mark 37 director represented more than fire control technology. It represented American scientific education, engineering expertise, industrial research capacity, and technological innovation systematically applied to military problems. Each component, gun, ship, director, represented broader systems: industrial capitalism, democratic mobilization, scientific education, technological innovation, abundant resources, and free labor. Italian naval officers understood courage, honor, tradition, and seamanship. They mastered tactics, strategy, navigation, and gunnery. They commanded beautifully designed ships built by master craftsmen. They deployed with confidence earned through 3 years of successful Mediterranean operations. They possessed every advantage except the one that mattered: industrial capacity. They brought pre-industrial military virtues, courage, honor, skill, tradition, to industrial warfare where abundance, production, technology, and systematic logistics determined outcomes. They fought bravely and died courageously but lost mathematically. Arithmetic sided with America. Production determined victory. Technology enabled dominance. Abundance overwhelmed excellence. The lesson remains timelessly relevant. Dismissing democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace, or underestimating free people's productive capacity because they value individual liberty, invites catastrophic miscalculation. Free societies, mobilized for war, demonstrate industrial and technological capabilities that authoritarian powers cannot match. Democratic cooperation outproduces totalitarian command. Free labor outperforms conscripted labor. Abundant resources overwhelm scarce resources. Mass production defeats artisanal craftsmanship. The mathematics remain constant. Industrial capacity multiplied by technological innovation multiplied by democratic mobilization equals military power that courage and tradition cannot overcome. Giuseppe Maron learned this lesson in 13 minutes aboard Artigliere on July 17, 1943. The Regia Marina learned it in 8 days of systematic annihilation in July 1943. The lesson costs 2,447 lives, 13 destroyers, and 1 navy. The mathematics remain undeniable. The lesson remains essential. Underestimate democratic industrial capacity at catastrophic cost.